If your habits don't change, you won't have a new year, you'll just have another year. Think about that for a second. How many times have we told ourselves, this year will be different, but ended up right back where we started? Why does that happen? It's because we're trying to build a new life with old habits. And let's be honest, that doesn't work. So today, let's talk about how you can actually make this year different. Not by setting resolutions you'll forget by February, but by changing the habits that shape your life. To do that, we're going to explore Stephen Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people. These aren't just tips, they're principles that can completely change the way you live. Ready? Let's get into it. Here's the thing. Real change doesn't happen on the surface. It starts deep inside. But most of us focus on fixing what's outside, our appearance, our social media profiles, or our image. We spend so much time trying to look successful or happy that we forget to ask ourselves, what really matters to me? Covey says we need to start from the inside out. He asks a simple but powerful question. If everything you had was taken away tomorrow, what would you truly value? Would it be your Instagram followers? Probably not. It would be things like your relationships, your health, and your personal growth. That's where real success starts, with your core principles. So, take a moment to think about your values. Are they guiding you toward the life you want? Or are you stuck following outdated beliefs that aren't serving you anymore? Changing your habits starts with shifting your mindset, your paradigm. And that brings us to habit number 1. Be proactive. Alright, let's get real for a second. How often do you blame other people, or even life itself, for your problems? It's not my fault, or I had no choice. Sound familiar? Covey's first habit flips that script. It's called Be Proactive, and it's all about taking responsibility for your life. Now, this isn't to take away from the real hardships you might face due to things that are genuinely out of your control. Life throws curveballs, and sometimes there's nothing you can do to change that. But here's the thing, if it's truly out of your control, then complaining about it won't help. What you can control is how you respond to those challenges. Picture this, you're holding a blank book and every page represents a day of your life. What do you want to write? A story where you're a victim of your circumstances? Or a story where you're the hero who takes control and overcomes all the challenges life throws at you? Proactive people focus on what they can control, their circle of influence. Instead of stressing over things like the weather or someone else's bad attitude, they focus on their own actions. And here's the secret. The more you focus on what you can control, the smaller your worries become. This year, start by taking ownership of your life. Stop saying, I can't, and start saying, I will. You'll be amazed at how empowering it feels. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Now that you're taking control, it's time to figure out where you're going. Think of it like this. If your life was a house, would you start building without a blueprint? Of course not. So why live your life without a clear vision of what you want? Here's a powerful exercise. Imagine your own funeral. What do you want people to say about you? How do you want to be remembered? It might sound a little morbid, but it's a great way to figure out what truly matters to you. Once you know that, write a personal mission statement. This is your blueprint, a guide for how to live your life. For example, if you want to be remembered as someone who inspired others, then your daily actions should reflect that. Everything you do should align with your vision. This way, you're not just working hard, you're working with purpose. Habit 3. Put first things first. Alright, let's talk about priorities. How many times have you told yourself, I don't have time for this, while scrolling through social media for an hour? Yeah, we've all been there. Habit number 3, put first things first, is about focusing on what really matters. Covey uses something called the time management matrix to help you figure this out. Imagine dividing your tasks into 4 quadrants: urgent and important, things like emergencies and deadlines; important but not urgent, long-term goals, building relationships, planning for the future; urgent but not important. These tasks are those that interrupt our days, such as phone calls or meetings. Not urgent and not important, mindlessly scrolling TikTok or binge watching Netflix. The goal? Spend most of your time in quadrant 2, important but not urgent tasks. These are activities that support your long-term happiness and success, like nurturing relationships, planning for the future, exercising, and preparing for what lies ahead. Unfortunately, these often get pushed aside because they don't feel urgent. To make time for them, you need to say no to distractions and delegate tasks that aren't essential. Covey shared an example where managers shifted their focus to building relationships with store owners, an important but not urgent activity. Instead of wasting time on phone calls and emails, attending meetings, and writing reports, this shift led to dramatic improvements in satisfaction and revenue. By prioritizing quadrant 2, you align your actions with your values and address challenges as smaller, manageable parts of a bigger picture. Habit 4. Think win-win. Let's shift gears to relationships. Too often, we think life is a competition. Someone has to win and someone has to lose. But Covey challenges us to think win-win. What if you could succeed without stepping on anyone else's toes? This habit isn't just about being nice. It's a character-based approach to human interaction and collaboration. Most of us grow up basing our self-worth on comparison and competition. We view success as a zero-sum game. If I win, someone else must lose. This scarcity mindset leads to jealousy, resentment, and an endless cycle of not enough. Win-win thinking shifts that paradigm. It's about seeking mutual benefit in every interaction, finding solutions that genuinely work for everyone involved. To achieve this, you need both empathy and confidence. You must balance consideration for others with the courage to stand by your own needs. This balance between courage and consideration is the essence of true maturity and the foundation of win-win relationships. For example, if you're negotiating with a coworker, instead of arguing over who gets credit, think about how you can both win. Maybe you divide responsibilities in a way that highlights both of your strengths. When you focus on collaboration instead of competition, you build trust and strengthen relationships. That's a win for everyone. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Here's a question. Are you a good listener? Most people aren't. Instead of really listening, we're just waiting for our turn to talk. Think of it this way. Imagine going to the optometrist and explaining that you're struggling to see signs far away. Instead of examining you, the doctor takes off their own glasses and says, "These worked for me. Try them on." No questions asked. No tests done. It's absurd, right? You wouldn't trust that doctor. Yet, in conversations, we often do the same thing. We offer solutions without fully understanding the other person's perspective. Now picture yourself going through a tough time, like a divorce, the loss of a loved one, or losing your job. Who would you seek advice from? Someone who has no idea what you're experiencing, or someone who truly understands? Of course, you trust someone who listens and relates to your situation. Empathetic listening is the key to building trust and understanding. It requires more than hearing words. It means paying attention to emotions, tone, and body language. According to experts, only 10% of communication is through words, 30% is through sounds, and a massive 60% comes from body language. If you replace typical responses with empathetic listening, you'll notice deeper connections in your relationships. This skill takes practice, but once mastered, it transforms how you interact. When people feel understood, they're more likely to listen to you in return. And when that happens, you can communicate your ideas in a way that builds trust and credibility rather than conflict. Habit 6. Synergize. Combining strengths is key to achieving more than we ever could alone. Everyone is different, right? The world would be a pretty boring place if we all thought similarly and couldn't learn from one another. In fact, we need one another. Think of it like this: 2 heads are better than 1. When people with different perspectives come together, they can create something greater than they could on their own. Synergize is about working together to find new solutions to challenging problems. It's the idea that the sum is greater than its parts. Think of it like ingredients in a recipe coming together to create a dish, or instruments in an orchestra blending to create a symphony. That's synergy. And it doesn't happen by accident. It's a habit that requires valuing differences and following a process that builds on all the other habits. For example, imagine you're working on a group project. Instead of trying to do everything yourself, tap into the strengths of your team members. Maybe one person is great at brainstorming ideas, while another is skilled at organizing details. By appreciating and valuing these differences, you step outside of your usual way of thinking and open the door to new perspectives. This year, look for opportunities to collaborate. Whether it's at work, at home, or in your community, you'll achieve more when you work together. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. Finally, let's talk about self-care. Taking care of yourself is like sharpening a knife. If it's dull, even the most skilled chef can't work effectively. Similarly, we must renew ourselves regularly to stay sharp and effective. This means devoting time to 4 key areas. Physical. Just as a chef sharpens their tools, you can sharpen your body through exercise, eating well, and getting enough rest. Staying physically active helps you approach life proactively, building the energy and endurance needed to face challenges. Mental. Keep your mind sharp by reading, learning new skills, and engaging in activities that challenge you intellectually. Whether it's journaling, learning a new language, or exploring a new hobby, mental renewal ensures you stay curious and focused. Emotional and social. Relationships are like the foundation of a great dish, essential for balance and flavor. Build meaningful connections, practice gratitude, and contribute to the lives of others. These actions foster understanding, empathy, and positivity. Spiritual. This doesn't necessarily mean religion. It means connecting with what gives your life purpose and meaning. It could be meditating, spending time in nature, or reflecting on your core values. To make this a reality, start by identifying one activity in each area to commit to each week. Evaluate your progress at the end of every week and adjust as needed. Investing in these areas isn't selfish. It's essential for lasting effectiveness and happiness. Ultimately, if you want this year to be different, it's not about setting bigger goals or making grand resolutions. It's about changing your daily habits. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People gives us the tools to do just that. Start by taking ownership of your life. Create a clear vision for the future, prioritize what matters, and focus on building positive relationships. And don't forget to take care of yourself along the way. If you're ready to make these shifts, this year can be the one where everything changes. The question is, do you want a new year, or you just want to live another year?